right, Nick, let's come back to the Eagles real quick. I'll remind everybody.
This is a segment. Here we go.
We did a mini pod on the Eagles this past weekend, talked about ways they can correct it. Nick gave some great perspective. Check it out.
You see that?
Yeah, I love it.
You like my note?
So Philly fans are aware of this. I'm especially aware of it because my alma mater, I am incredibly thankful that Frank Reich said, hey, I'll come out of basically retirement and hanging out and living his best life and coach Stanford this year. And he did. And I thought Stanford might win 1 or 2 games. They won 4. And thank you, Frank, right? Yeah. He and Andrew have a good relationship. Andrew Luck's the GM of Stanford football. And Andrew was able to get him to come be a college coach for a year. Now, I think you probably told him, Frank, don't worry about recruiting. We just need you to come in and help us make this transition to our next coach, which is now going to be Tavita Pritchard, who was the quarterback coach of the Washington Commanders. Frank Reich now is hanging out. Their season's over. They're not going to a bowl game. Stanford was 4-8, not great, but I think he exceeded expectations this year, and they beat Cal, which is Stanford's rival. He's a Sirianni mentor, right? We're going to get at some point we'll get Frank on the show. As of December 1st, Sirianni is on record saying they are, quote, evaluating everything. I thought he changed his tune a little bit, by the way. Nick has been very stubbornly behind his guys, which I'm fine with. Maybe behind the scenes he's saying something different. But to the media, he's backed Kevin Patullo. He's backed his staff, which is what he should do. But behind the scenes, I think they're having different discussions. And finally, for the first time, Nick said, we're, quote, evaluating everything. We'll think about different things we want to do all over the place. Scheme, everything, right? He mentions they could even be looking at altering scheme. So Philly's offense right now, they have the highest hitch route rate. I'm only going to throw these things out to show you how vanilla it is. They have the lowest rate of crossing routes in the league, according to PFF. They're bottom 5 in pre-snap motions. They're bottom 2 in play-action fakes, which is crazy given how good your running back is. And everyone's worried about your threat of running the ball, even though they haven't been great at running it this year. A.J. Brown lines up in the slot less than any wide receiver in football. Okay, and the offensive line is off. Tyler Steen and Landon Dickerson are 2 of the guards. They're 4th and 9th, respectively. Tyler being 4th, Landon Dickerson being 9th in the league at allowing pressure amongst guards in the NFL. Some of that could be scheme. We all know how that works. You're putting these guys on islands and all that. Others is just performance. Interior pressure is hurting them. It's not an elite offensive line this year, and you can sort of point to scheme, but also just general performance. Here's their remaining schedule. At the Chargers this week, home against the Raiders. At the Commanders, at the Bills, home against the Commanders. These are all winnable games for them. At the Bills will be tough. At the Chargers will be tough. But these are all winnable games. Every game the Eagles play is a winnable game. But Frank Reich's hanging out. Does Nick make a phone call? Sirianni? Does Nick Sirianni make a phone call to say, hey, Nick, you've been watching this. Or excuse me, hey, Frank, you've been watching this. What do you think? Right? Does he at least make that phone call? Or does Frank just, is there anything there? Or is this just, I don't know. It's worth at least wondering. Because Frank is no longer at Stanford, and he's hanging out.
If I'm Nick Sirianni, I 100% am making that phone call and pleading to Frank to come out and just
hang out with us for a month, right?
Finish the season with us. Yeah. Come out here. And not only that, just
by the way, not call plays, but just
sit with
us
a
in the
consultant. Kevin Patullo is your play call. Okay, so there's a lot here. This is going to be a segment. I have a lot of notes, a lot of thoughts. A lot of people chimed in with what we said about Kevin Patullo and just different micro changes. The one recommendation was, hey, take him from the sidelines. There wasn't a ton of research. I haven't been there. He's been on the sidelines before his play caller, but he's only been a play caller on the sideline. I will say this from playing in the NFL, especially when it's your first time calling plays. I love that at the beginning of the season he wanted to do that, but I do think that there's so much emotion going around the Eagles right now and the fans and everything. Let's get you in the box and get you into a controlled environment. Let's just change scenery. I think that will help. That's a micro change. That doesn't solve the schematics. You just shared the schematics, with the hitches, the snaps, and everything. Put on a little, hey, Todd Anderson, my buddy, Michigan State, former teammate, dream. You got glasses, you got nasal strips. Check him out. Yeah. Awesome stuff. Todd's a great dude.
Just a little plug there.
Yeah, you like it, and you look good in him, man.
Keep going.
Colby's going to love this. So anyway, I've got some thoughts and some stories. Going back to Frank, I'm going to organize this in my head. You call Frank, and not only as a consultant, there's a couple coaches on the staff in Philly that have been with Frank. They love Frank. Frank's a mentor to Nick Sirianni. It's always great to have a mentor without an ego stepping in. That's Frank. Frank can come in there and he can give you a soundboard to sit in meetings. As a head coach, it's very lonely. As a starting quarterback, it's very lonely because you are the top of the totem pole. You are the leader. it's very difficult to have those conversations with people that can relate to what you're going through. Frank Reich absolutely can relate to what you're going to because he's been a head coach. He's won a Super Bowl as an OC. He's been a player. He'd be a great asset to the Eagles. 100% get him there as a consultant.
He's made adjustments late in the season with
and honestly, this is another suggestion. When you put Kevin Patullo in the box, and this is just to help him. I still think Kevin can turn this around, first and foremost. He has, and this isn't all on Kevin. Kevin is not the only person out there helping. It's the whole coaching staff. It's the entire team. Once again, greatest team sport in the world. Team, not individual, not player. This is also the OC. He has been a coach on your staff since 2021. He's taken you to 2 Super Bowls and won you a Super Bowl as a staff member.
Has.
So give him respect. He's brought you a Super Bowl as a staff. So first and foremost, let's have a little perspective. And I know this year's different. Everyone has their demanding what they want. But listen, there's still time to turn this thing around. Little micro changes. Frank would be a great asset. Say Kevin's in the box. Frank's sitting next to him. He can help him throughout the different situations. When defense goes and playing, when you're trying to figure out what first base downs, third downs you're calling next, Frank is a great asset. This is Frank's offense that Nick is running probably.
It's a great point.
So Frank can give you that insight. This is the number one call. If you're Jeffrey Lurie, Howie Roseman, you are getting Frank right there to be a consultant to help, not call plays, but to help Kevin out. So Kevin's not alone out there, man. This is his first year calling plays. Like, that is a very difficult position to be in, coming from being a Super Bowl champion. So I have respect for Kevin and everything's handled. I know it's difficult, whatever. So that's a positive. Okay, so we talked about the vanilla offense. My last 2 games in the NFL for the Indianapolis Colts, that was a very difficult year. There was a strand of, we fired Marcus Brady, who was our OC. Marcus, great dude, really knowledgeable in football, great coach. Frank Reich is also fired. And then our tight end coach leaves for a job at Stanford because everyone knew it was when your head coach gets fired, everyone knows everyone's job is probably gone. So therefore, we are down 3 offensive coaches. So I call, then it's up to, and then all of a sudden, for some reason, I didn't like the decision, but Jeff Saturday decided to bench Matt Ryan, which I thought was awful. It was after the greatest comeback the Vikings ever made in history when they beat us in Minnesota. For some reason, they benched Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan had a great game. It just happened. Matt should have still been playing. But anyway, they benched Matt. And now I'm playing. So then we have to create an offense for me, and we try to, and everyone's overthinking things, so we try to make it really vanilla. Line up, let's play ball. We're playing against 2 potential playoff teams in the Chargers and the Giants. Boom. One was a primetime game. Well, we make the offense pretty vanilla, low shift, low motion rate, and I will tell you what, I'm thinking we're just going to go out there, let's just play, let's execute. Listen, that doesn't work in the NFL. I learned the hard way, and this is like, I'm trying to help, Parks Frazier and I, Spencer Phillips came in from Oregon. He's coaching high school ball to help out. We're trying to, we lost 3 offensive coaches. We already were light on coaches anyway. We're trying to just develop a game plan that we can just go out there and execute, and guys can play fast and not think. It's not good enough in the NFL. And I learned the hard way. Those are my last 2 games in the NFL. Is like and I didn't like shifts and motions a lot and without a purpose. Like, shifts and motions change the way the defense looks. It slows your rhythm down. Right. You're constantly waiting. You're making sure guys are aligned. Things shift, blitz checks, all these different things. Protections change.
Well, Sirianni has said there's other ways to gather information.
There
shifting and motioning for no reason. Right?
For no reason, right?
Exactly.
So, but they had great success last year with shifting and motioning with a purpose. So that, and what it does is it creates space. It puts the defense on their heels. It creates gaps for the O-line. It helps them with different angles from the run game. It helps them with the pass game because now you're running the ball well. Let's just keep it real. The Eagles are a run-first offense. They are not a pass-first offense. Even though they have these dynamic receivers and Goddard and all these different things, they're at their best when they run the ball, and then passing is off the run. They need more play action. They need more of that. That is hard to facilitate in the middle of the season. You bring Frank Reich in, he can probably help with the knowledge and the execution of that, going to the different positions, being there, helping out. I'm sure he'd love to. It just depends. Is he exhausted after this college football season, steering Stanford, knowing he's the interim head coach? Is he's like, man, I need a break? That's the one thing. He might want to be with his family and his grandkids and be like, man, I just went and helped Andrew out. I can't go help you out, Nick. I can help you with a phone call. That's on Frank, but I know he'd be a great asset knowing Frank. But that's me being honest in opinion. Like, I failed my last 2 games. We failed because we thought we could just, hey, man, this is tough. Everything's falling apart. Let's just try to go play fast and try to put something together. Defenses are too good. When you line up and just play without that, you do not displace them. They are downhill. They line up perfectly. They run your routes for them. They know what they're doing. You have to make defensive players go from the subconscious to the conscious. When you shift in emotion, they are now thinking, wait, I'm on him. Oh, wait, hey, you got him now. You got him. Hey, bump over. When you see that, you're creating space. You're creating angles. You're creating holes. You're changing the coverage. There's busted coverage. You're doing bunch formations. That is why you did it. I failed. We failed my last 2 games in Indy doing that, and I learned the hard way. So that's why I'm saying here from someone with experience. I'm not.
So can Frank affect this without even sitting with Patullo up in the box? Because that might be embarrassing for Patullo, and like it might be an admission of defeat by Sirianni, which you got to get over your ego and do things to help
you're
the team.
Super Bowl winning coach.
But can't you bring Frank in behind the scenes all week long? Have him at practice, have him talking to Kevin, and just giving ideas. There's no ego with Frank. Frank's not going to step in and get in the way.
He just wants to help.
Exactly. So if he's willing, can't you just bring him in to be a sounding board and give ideas throughout the course of the week?
Yes, and honestly, Frank is awesome with ideas. Frank will have a lot of ideas from him being a play caller and a quarterback. He knows how it works. He's done it at the highest level. I think it would be a great asset. And I think the biggest thing is this. You're not bringing in a guy with an ego that's like, oh, I'm going to try. Listen, he's going to go in with the heart of, I just want to help. I want to help Nick out. I love Philadelphia. I won a Super Bowl here as an OC. Let me help this out. Kevin, I relate to you, man. I know what it's like as a play caller when it's not going well, it's all on you. I can relate to you. So even those little conversations from a human perspective, one-on-one with Nick and Kevin, those are important in this grand scheme of a football season. Once again, when you're the OC, the head coach, and the quarterback, you don't really have many guys that have done what you've done that you can talk to about those struggles. And a lot of times as men, we don't want to open up with what we're going on because we want to feel like we have it all together and we're so tough. But sometimes the greatest thing you can do is find a guy you trust, someone that's been there and done it, that can relate and just be a sounding board. Like, hey, this is where I'm at. My brain's a little cluttered. It's been a tough year. And then you just have a really awesome conversation. And then there's the football aspect. I think it'd be really helpful.
So, also know, like, for example, head coaches deserve credit for good hires, right? It's part of their job. So when someone tells me like, oh, I don't know about him, I'm not talking about Nick Sirianni, I'm talking generally. When people talk about head coaches and say, oh, he always had good coordinators. It's like, hold on. That's part of his job, is to hire good coordinators. Yeah. So if he had good coordinators, that's on him. Don't take that away from him and tell me that like he doesn't deserve credit because he had great coordinators. Like Jim Harbaugh is a great example of that. Jim Harbaugh's always had great. I don't even think Jim Harbaugh's football acumen is crazy high. I played for him in college. It's not like off the charts. He is phenomenal at hiring good coordinators and putting people in a position to be successful. So when it comes to Nick Sirianni and the potential that just like we're kind of romanticizing about Frank Reich going back there, it wouldn't be this embarrassing admission of defeat of like, oh, I got to bring Frank back. That would be a win for you, Nick Sirianni. That would be a win to say, I brought Frank back in the fold as a consultant because I felt like we needed assistance, and we got better because of it. That goes on your record as a win, not a loss, right? Being able to step up and say, I need assistance here. What can I do? That's the mark of a really good leader and football coach. And I think Nick Sirianni has a chance to do that. I don't know if Frank would accept it. When you call him on speaker right now. Ask him, hey, Frank, on the show, if Nick called you just as a consultant role, would you accept like hanging with him for 5 days a week the rest of the season? Get him on speaker.
Yeah,
I don't know if you would accept it, but I'm telling you right now, it would not be a blemish on Nick Sirianni's career to do that. It would be, I think, personally, it would be a huge high mark to say, I made a move late in the season that we were struggling, and it helped us turn the offense around.
You know what your theme has been with coaches this episode is self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
Self-awareness. And it's honestly like taking a humble look at you and not living in like just being egotistical. So and I think there was a clip from the Philadelphia Eagles Hard Knocks for the end season. And Nick Sirianni is talking to Brandon Graham, who was my teammate, one of the greatest Eagles of all time, came out of retirement. And they're just talking about the Lord. They're also talking about adversity and how that adversity has shaped them. And, you know, adversity is not a bad thing. Trials are a good thing. They aren't fun a lot of times. But if you can recognize them and have the perspective like, this is what it is, let's take one step at a time, be present, get through it the right way, amazing things happen. And I think Nick makes the statement, man, 2023 happened, but then look what we did in 2024. Exactly. If 2023 doesn't happen, do we win a Super Bowl in 2024? Probably not. You went through adversity. You made changes because you were self-aware.
What were the changes?
They hired Kellen Moore
and Vic Fangio.
And bring in Saquon Barkley.
and you've got a chance to make, like, again, I don't know if Frank would do it, but you've got a chance.
Well, and it's like, I think back in my life, I get traded to the St. Louis Rams, it's a really tough year, almost leave the game, and then I go play for the Kansas City Chiefs, find the love of the game back, love playing the game of football, learned how to go through the trial and the tribulation of the Rams, and in that offseason, once again, it was a blessing. I'm playing in the NFL, so like, listen, perspective's big. I had to learn and grow in my faith and go through that trial, which was tough because it's something you put a lot of time in. But without that, am I able to handle the trial of and the opportunity when the Eagles needed me in 2017? Am I equipped from a mental and a physical standpoint to handle? I don't think so. Mm-hmm. That equipped me for what was ahead. And I love that Nick Sirianni and Brandon Graham that's two leaders on the Eagles having that. So that shows me Nick's in his first 4 years, he's one of the greatest coaches in his first 4 years in history. He's taking you to 2 Super Bowls. He's won 1 Super Bowl. He knows what he's doing. He's self-aware. He's going to make decisions. Yes, this is a little bit of a skid offensively this year. They can still do it. They can still turn it around, little micro changes. This, I made all these notes. This paper right here, this is this thing I was showing you, the ink thing. Shout out to Ink. It's not a sponsor. I just love it, digitalize it and stuff, but that's besides the point. This is where leaders thrive in this adversity. And like that conversation with him and Brand, that little 30-second clip showed me the leadership that is there and that they're ready for this. They know what this is. They're recognizing what it is. They're not afraid of it. They're not shying away from it. Perspective, the sky isn't falling. You still are the head of the NFC East. You still have a great opportunity. Is your road going to probably get a little bit tougher? Yeah, but you can do that. Another thing I was thinking, we had recommended the change of scenery for, Kevin and put him in the box. That is get him in position, take away all the distractions, go call plays, have everything. Because when you're on the sideline, you have a call sheet, but you got all these distractions. You're hitting the button. Man, look at Vic Fangio up there. He's got his can of Zen. He's got his Diet Coke or whatever he drinks. He's got a tablet. He's got the whole play sheet. He's got guys next to him. You can really decipher what's going on and make decisions, and that is great. Another thing that I think is you want to, as a coach, belief plus actions equals progress. So I was thinking back, I always go back to 17-18 because that was a really special year, but we were picked as the least feared team in the playoffs. Well, it's like, man, what did we do that year? Like, there was a lot of adversity. What did we do? What the staff did, they made cut-ups for all the starters or all the players, little, couple-man cut-ups of plays that we did exceptionally well and who we were, who our identity was as a player, and reminded us of our ability, the great things we could do, because visualization is powerful. There's studies that show visualization, praying, thinking, rewires the brain in a really healthy way. So we each got cut-ups sent to us through like a cloud link that we would watch to remind.
Is that Doug's idea?
I don't know. It was probably a sports science idea. Howie's idea was to put everywhere around the facility, put all the rankings from all the media and stuff about how bad we were and how we were least feared, like in the toilets, around the facility, in the urinals. Everywhere we saw was a constant reminder about how we were underdogs. And honestly, I always joke. I remember there was one time, sometimes your bowel movements, you got to go number 2. And I remember thinking like, man, this is the one spot I can go. This is right when they first get up. Like, all right, I finally just get to be alone. It's early in the morning. The toilet's just been cleaned because I know the toilet seat's up. That's pristine time.
That's a good time.
And I sit down, and it's like the one moment no one's going to be around me. I can take a breath, and I look to my right, and there's just this big old piece of paper with all our statistics and all the data. And I knew that the reason everyone was doubting was the guy sitting on the throne on the toilet. And I'm like, man, but I had a great team. I always go back to my faith, spend time with the Lord in the morning, but I realized I wasn't alone, and I just had to do the best I could do that day and just continue to stack days, keep going, not be afraid of making mistakes. And I had a great team, great coaches, great franchise around me, and I wasn't alone. So I look at it, even that clip of the Eagles, and that Hard Knocks is going to be great. Mm-hmm. It might be the first one I actually have to watch some of it because I'm sure we're going to talk about it. I loved what I saw, and I think Eagles fans should be optimistic about that. Listen. These coaches, a lot of these coaches, these players are the ones that just brought you a Super Bowl. And they need you to rally around them in the tough times as well as the good times. So let's show them I know Philly's tough. I know you're going to do what you do. I love it. I think it was you that said, like, hey, man, there's times where they're booing on TV. They've done it. They've been trained. But just a reminder, man, we thrive off the fans. We love the energy in the stadium. We understand that. We hold ourselves accountable. We know we want to win just as much, if not more than you do. I got to believe they're putting in the work to make those changes, to put them in position, to put Kevin in position. How great of a story would that be if they turn this around, make changes? Maybe Frank comes in as a consultant. Maybe it's just via Zoom.
That's what I was going to say. We may never even know. Maybe they're talking to him by Zoom.
We never
right?
even know. But like, if they turn this around, man, that's a great story, and it's great growth. And they have the leadership in the locker room. They have the pedigree in the facility. They have everyone there, and they know it. They just need to be reminded of that. They need someone to create belief with actions. Will create change in what they want, and that's what the leaders do.
It's a long NFL season. Changes are allowed. Changes are common for really good teams to turn a corner, and this is one of the possible changes. And we may never even know if it comes about because Frank is not a me first guy. He's not going to want the publicity. He's not going to want what comes along with that. And we may never even know until a year later that he's in the fold helping him. I have no idea. But it is intriguing to think that he's out there as a possible, not necessarily the fix, but as a possible mechanism they could activate to try to assist them in getting over the hump as an offense. Because even though the defense allowed a ton of rushing yards against Chicago, I believe in that defense. I believe in the personnel they have offensively. It's just about getting it right and continuing to try to find solutions before we hit the playoff stretch. So,
man, they're good. Hey,
good stuff.
Eagles might be a little skid right now. Let's peak at the right time. They got it.
It's all that matters.
They got the leadership. They got the people there. Just a few minor changes in what they're doing, and they're going to be okay.